Adonai roi lo esa, vino tesheyar seni, al mei menuchotina, nafshi yeshovet, nafshi yeshovet. Yarcheni l'magnitzek l'man shemto Amekieh v'getza l'mavet Lo irara Ki ata imadi shivetecha umishantecha shivetecha umishantecha ema enachamuni Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Neged tzorai, Tishanta Hashem el Roshi, Dishanta Hashem el Roshi, Dishanta Hashem el Roshi, Kol Sirevaya. V'shavati b'beit Adonai, v'shavati b'beit Adonai, le'orech yamim,
Thank you to Eitan Cantor opening this afternoon, with Psalm 23, which reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green pastures, leading me beside still waters, restoring my soul, guiding me in straight paths, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever." In Psalm 15, King David asks, "Mi yagur be'ohalecha, mi yishkon behar kodeshecha." Who is the one who deserves eternity? Who is the one who merits a place in God's presence? Live with integrity, do what is right, Speak the truth without deceit. Have no slander upon your tongue. Do no evil to others. Do not mistreat your neighbor. Spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere Adonai. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Lend no money at unfair rates, accept no bribes against the innocent. Make these deeds your own, then you will stand firm forever. Ivan Botvin. We're going to get some more batteries in just a moment. Ivan Botvin was a man who lived by these time-tested values. He was an honest, hardworking man, a kind and generous person. These were the values that endeared him to everyone who knew him and made him a beloved husband, father, and community member. Ivan was born in Brooklyn, New York on April 12, 1935, to Rose Lebo and Samuel Saul Botvin, who was an immigrant from Belarus, or what is now Belarus. When Ivan was still a child, the family moved out to Reading, Pennsylvania, where Ivan's father owned a company that manufactured fluorescent lighting fixtures. Ivan studied journalism at Temple University, hoping to make a career in the field. After college, he enlisted in the U.S. Army, serving as a public affairs officer, covering sports for Stars and Stripes in post-war Europe. Sadly, Ivan's father, Samuel, died just before his 50th birthday. Ivan, being a dutiful son, took over the business and ran it throughout his adult life. It was shortly before Samuel's death when Ivan met Judy Kaminsky. They had only gone out on a couple of dates at that point, but Judy came to Samuel's funeral and was there to support Ivan in his grief. Ivan and Judy fell in love. Judy had been a student at Penn, but was looking to transfer to the University of Colorado, where she was originally from. Ivan and Judy met in April of 1961. They were engaged by July, and their wedding was here in Denver over Thanksgiving Day weekend that same year. Judy finished her studies. Instead of coming back here to Colorado, she finished at Albright College in Reading. She and Ivan invested themselves in their small but close-knit Jewish community. Ivan was not a religious man, but he was proud to be Jewish, and he believed in standing up for his values. He was very active in B'nai B'rith and helped found the B'nai B'rith senior living apartments in Reading. He and Judy were active on the JCC board, the Jewish Federation, and many other organizations. Ivan and Judy were blessed with 3 daughters, all born within 4.5 years of each other: Stephanie, Andrea, and Victoria. We will be hearing more from each of them today, and they will tell us more about their relationship with their father. Ivan was influenced by the values he held and by his family. Having 3 daughters, he was especially attuned to women's rights. And along with Judy, Ivan was active in promoting reproductive freedom. He and Judy attended several protests and demonstrations in support of abortion rights and other issues. Ivan believed in justice and equality. After he closed his business in the late 80s, as much of the manufacturing of lighting fixtures had moved overseas, it was in retirement that he remained active in politics, even making a run for a seat in Congress. He didn't make it far in the nomination process, but this event in Ivan's life demonstrated his commitment to civic engagement. Ivan and Judy valued family and supported their daughters in their education and professional pursuits. Ivan's brother Melvin Botvin, like his father, died in his 50s as well. Ivan had heart issues too, and he did not have high hopes for a long life. So he lived his later years with a sense of borrowed time, grateful for the years he had with Judy and their children and grandchildren. Ivan enjoyed life and loved his grandchildren, Micah, Olivia, and Ben, Logan, and Natasha. We will hear from Ivan's daughters and from his son-in-law and a couple of his grandchildren as well. We bless you that you should find comfort in the days and years ahead, in loving memory of your father and your husband, grandfather. May Ivan Botvin's memory be a source of enduring blessing to his family and all who loved him. May he rest in peace. May God bring comfort to those who mourn, and let us say, we'll now invite up Ivan's family to share some words, starting with Stephanie.
So long ago that we were here celebrating it. Really happy again. How do I know what I think until I see what I say? That's always been my mantra as a writer. And usually it works, but when I try and write down what my dad means to me, the words are hard to find. My dad and I were very alike, down to our identical moles on the left side of our identically large noses. My dad was an intellectual, a thinker, and an analyst. His two great loves, other than my mother, were the news and sports, and he saw them similarly as battles for the future of his tribal identity. He was used to being the sharpest guy in the room. He was a man who took his duties of taking care of his family seriously. He had high expectations for his children and the world that sometimes felt hard to live up to. He had a deep connection to being Jewish. It was hard sometimes living with the contradictions that were in him. And as a teenager and as a young adult, I didn't want to be like my dad. He lived in the shadow of the ticking time bomb that was his family's history of heart disease. And although he cheated death many times through the miracles of modern medicine, he was set in his ways and stubborn by the time modern medicine told him that there were other things he could be doing. So I guess you could say relationship status is complicated. But I can't say this. Of all the things that I'm grateful for in this life, other than my husband and my son, I'm grateful that my father lived to an age where I could see him with adult eyes, to see that life has trade-offs and disappointments that mark us all, and that people can change and grow and mellow. I see that my dad lived a life of love for his family and loyalty to his community. He was a man who walked a straight path, as the song that we just heard said. In his later years, my dad became more sentimental and much more of a softie. I'm grateful to have lived in Denver with him for the last 15 years, so that I had a chance to get to know him as an adult, and he had a chance to get to know me. He let us know how proud he was of us. He shared more and listened more. And now I also know this. He lived up to his expectations. He lived to see his 3 daughters marry Jewish men and carry on traditions and heritage in new modern ways. He lived to see us go on adventures, live authentically, and become good peoples in our community. He lived to get to meet his 5 grandchildren and to be able to speculate on the great things that they would accomplish as adults. And in caring for him in his final years, we were able to show him the love and respect we had for him. So I guess the words that I was looking for when I started writing this are just really a simple prayer. Praise are you, our God, lets the child grow up to know the parent, and the parent live to know their children.
Invite Andrea.
How do you surmise a life of 88 years in a short eulogy? My father had already outlived his life expectancy, despite the fact that he never befriended a vegetable and he was no fan of exercise. His father had passed a day before his 50th birthday, and his mother passed his brother Mel had passed at age 54, and his mother passed at age 86. What was the secret of his long life? Maybe it was all the Diet Coke that had all the preservatives that preserved his body. But I believe it was his sheer determination to hang on. He simply was not done loving yet. In April, he was hospitalized for 10 days, and I did not expect him to come home. Towards the end of the stay, we discussed skilled nursing for him, but he wanted to come home, surrounded by his memories, as he put it. He returned home on his 88th birthday and celebrated with a cheesesteak and cheesecake with his family. And although his quality of life had declined, he took great joy in his children and grandchildren. He was so proud of us all and watching our accomplishments. And despite the fact that my dad had his generational expectations about men not cooking and cleaning, Dad was a true mensch who was always a believer in women's rights and human rights. I will never forget the marches we went on as a family for Israel, Soviet Jewry, and including the 20th anniversary march for the passing of Roe v. Wade in Washington, D.C. The metro system for that march was so packed that when we got out of the train car, there was nowhere to go. As we piled on the escalator, a woman at the top tripped, starting a terrifying pileup. My dad was quick thinking and yelled down to someone at the bottom to turn off the escalator, saving us all from becoming a newspaper tragedy. There's so much I will miss about my dad. His quick wit, his fabulous stories, his solid intellect, our conversations about social justice and current events, and his big guttural hugs. If you look out amongst the mourners here and the mourners virtually, including my daughter Olivia, who could not be here with us today but is watching us virtually, you will see what he left behind. He left behind a legacy of so much love. Thank you for taking your time with us today.
Thank you. We invite Victoria to share some words.
Get comfortable. A few words. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Victoria. I'm the one who lives far away in Switzerland. I'm the youngest of Ivan's daughters, baby girl, the daddy's girl. When I called my dad on the phone over the past few years, I always greeted him by saying, "What's happening, Daddy-o?" That was my term of endearment for him. For the past 48 hours, I've had a number of fleeting thoughts about my father, but one of the most dramatic feelings I had was when I was flying here and I transferred airports through New York City. I was walking to my next gate and I looked out the window and suddenly the symbolism of the moment overwhelmed me for a second. This is where it all began. I thought to myself, I'm walking in the place where Ivan Jerome Botvin was born. It overwhelmed me to think about walking the journey where he started life. As you might guess, I met my father very early in my life. Yeah, that's my attempt at humor. Many of my childhood memories of my father have him beaming with absolute pride and unabashed joy over me and my sisters. He was a very proud father. For me, sports was definitely our bonding point, as I was a tomboy growing up and I loved sports. I would sit in the basement TV room with him, watching baseball or basketball for hours, which I had no interest in whatsoever, but I just wanted to be with him. In high school, I remember my dad attending every single field hockey game, volleyball match, track meet that I participated in. Not only did he have to leave work early, drive an hour in the car in order to do that, it's one of the small perks of owning your own business, but I remember that his barreling voice was the absolute only voice I could hear while I was running on the field. He was cheering from me from the sidelines and I would hear, "Go, Vicky! Take it all the way, Vicky!" His pride came shining through and I always felt his warmth and incredible amount of love. In fact, over the past few days, my best friend from high school told me it was always so clear how fiercely your father loved you and your sisters. I love that. Later in my life, I continued to feel his love and support in absolutely everything I did, whether it was graduating from Michigan, Big Ten sports, he liked that, or becoming a lawyer, working on Capitol Hill, loved politics and would talk politics with me all the time, to marrying a Jewish man, something I never thought I was gonna do, or even living overseas. My dad always made me feel special and accomplished. And I always tried to show love and appreciation to him as well, but it's really only very recently, and maybe even after his passing, that I really understood how much he sacrificed for us, for his wife and his children. After my grandfather died unexpectedly before he turned 50, my father had no other choice but to take over the family business and support his mother, Rose. Then once he got married, he gave up his dream of broadcast journalism and ran the family business in order to feed his own family and put a roof over our heads. He was a very smart man. He read 3 newspapers a day and devoured news and politics, almost literally 24/7, even playing the news while he was sleeping. I'm sure that managing a light fixture business was definitely not his dream, but he stayed in that job for something like 35 or 40 years, long enough to give his family a very comfortable life and put 3 girls through college. And he did it because he was a devoted father and husband. He was a real mensch. One thing, though, that I really enjoyed was seeing my father's personality evolve as he retired and moved to Colorado, when he wasn't under so much pressure from work. I always appreciated being brought up in a Democratic household, but I feel like later in my life, my dad definitely leaned into progressive values, and he held very liberal views on women, race, LGBTQ+ rights, and this was very, very different than many men of his generation. So while he was always very proud of my sisters and me, I think we also learned to be incredibly proud of him and how he had evolved. And we feel very lucky to have had him in our lives for such a long time. One of the saddest moments of my life, though, was when I was in Denver in November for Micah's bar mitzvah. My father and I were in the car together, and my dad was talking about how much he'll miss me when I return to Switzerland. And all of a sudden, he burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. It was really only the second time in my life I've ever seen him cry. The first was when his mom passed away. But during the conversation, he was crying and upset, and I said to him, "What's wrong, Dad? Why are you so upset?" And he responded through his heaving tears, "I just don't think I'll ever see you again." Oh. It was right. I already missed him so much. But yesterday, I got a text from my cousin in Israel, Tamar, who was sending her condolences. And like my cousin Danya, their dad is Mel, who is my father's brother. In talking about the situation to my cousin Tamar, I said, "You know, Tamar, I'm not exactly sure what happens to someone when they die, but I'd really like to think that right now, my dad is reunited with his brother Mel and his mother and father, Rose and Saul. So today, I'm wearing Saul's antique watch, which my dad also wore. And I'm thinking about them being together again. That makes me happy. A wise Israeli friend of mine shared an apropos observation. He said to me, when we lose a parent, it's like the world all of a sudden is tilting wrong. And today my world is tilted wrong because my father is not in it. To conclude, as I left New York yesterday to take my flight here, I saw the sun setting over the New York horizon, and it made me very sad. But it also made me realize that things have come full circle. Today is the sunset of my father's life here on earth. But I know that his memory will continue to shine on us and through us forever. I love you, Daddy. Thank you.
Thank you. We call upon Adam's son-in-law and two of the grandchildren, Micah and Ben.
Today, I'm going to speak about Ivan, the grandfather. I didn't grow up with any grandfathers. Both sets passed away before I was born. As a child, I was always curious about them. My mother and father were open and eager to satisfy my curiosity by showing me really old Kodak pics and stories that just made me smile. I was often compared to my mom's father, Irving, and always provided some comfort when my mom would say, he would have loved you so very much. And I suppose that was good enough. Now fast forward 25 years, when Steph and I decided to get hitched, I reflected on what I wanted in marriage. A priority for me was to raise a family with that family. And I was convinced that moving to Denver and being close to Stephanie's parents, Ivan and Judy, was necessary to create the support that I craved for myself and future child. Once Mike was born, having both sets of grandparents alive was a blessing. But having Steph's parents in Denver and lovingly accessible was truly magical as a boy. My boy would never know a world without grandparents. He will never be told that his grandparents would have loved him very much, because in fact, they do love him very much. Ivan was genuine and generous with his admiration and love for Micah and all his grandchildren. He absolutely loved being the granddaddy. He glowed with their accomplishments and was exceedingly proud of them. He took them to baseball games, attended sport and theater productions that the kids were engaged in. Ivan participated in Ben's and Micah's bar mitzvah and was never afraid to ask the serious questions to the kids around the table. I'm eternally grateful for that. The kids absolutely adored him, and watching the children kissing him on the forehead and squeezing him like a big Jewish teddy bear, again put a big smile on my face. And definitely validated my wanting to raise a family with it. Ivan was a strong and charismatic presence that will be missed but never forgotten. I promise you that. And I hope one day, when Micah starts his own family, and when it's time for me to hold this child for the very first time, I have no doubt I'm going to think of Ivan Botvin, great grandfather. Thank you.
I just want to say how grateful I am for Stephanie and Adam for inviting me over to dinner on I guess that would have been Friday night. We got a call from my grandmother Judy that they needed help putting in a microwave. And as funny as that sounded, as much as we could joke about it, I'm just really grateful because that was the last time I was able to see my grandfather, and he was so full of life, and he was so happy, and I'm just grateful that I was able to see him and give him one last up. So. Judy.
It's not very often I get the last word with that. I just wanted to throw in one last thing because it wasn't covered that I could tell in the comments of my daughter's beautiful comments. That Ivan, not only being a man of his time, was a man of the future. He had so much hope and belief in the future, excuse me, that he spent every moment of his waking hours when he wasn't in front of the news, reading about the investment world and reading about new technologies. And I brought along his book. He wrote notes about every new technology that was coming out, when to buy it, when to sell it, how. He even had things in here about what one company was going to buy another next August. I'll just name a few. Green hydrogen, these are categories. Look up the names of the stocks yourself or borrow my book. AI, artificial intelligence for security, for gaming, for medical, and more. He believed it was coming, and he trusted it, and he knew it was going to bring us all a better future. LiDAR, you think I know what this all is? Not. Fuel cells, crypto. I'm sorry to say I couldn't really discuss these things with him because I didn't have the kind of in-depth knowledge and understanding that he had. But I will throw in a name of one of the stocks he mentioned several times because it's my favorite. You're all listening? Ivanhoe Electric. And I just want to say thank my beautiful family for their beautiful speaking. They all inherited their dad's oratorical skills, and he would be more proud of them today than all those years before. Thank you. I love it.
Thank you all for sharing beautiful words with us this afternoon. Shortly, we will be departing here to Mount Nebo Cemetery. We'll have some more instructions from the Feldman Mortuary about about that. I also wanted to let you know that family will be receiving visitors today, tomorrow, and Wednesday from 3 to 6 p.m. at Judy's home. And there will be a prayer service only tonight at 5 p.m. So if you can make it to services this evening, I know the family would appreciate having a minion to St. Cottage. Judy's address, she lives in the Promontory, which is very close to here, 7000 East Quincy. It's building D, not very easy to see the marking on the building, but look for signs for building D, apartment 412. At this time, we'll ask you to please rise as we conclude the service here with memorial prayer.
קדושים טהורים, כזוהר הרקיע זהירים, את נשמת יצחק יוסף בן שמואל דרזיה, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן. אז תראו בסדר כנפיך לעולמי וצרור יצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני וינוח בשלום משכבו ונאמר
El Male Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, the soul of Ivan Botvin, known in our tradition as Yitzhak Yosef ben Shmuel ben Dresha, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May Ivan's soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our service here at the Hebrew Educational Alliance. We will have a determinate copy of the memorial card. You are invited, and if you'd like to join us at the cemetery, we'll ask you to make your own way. We do not have an escort procession today. You are welcome to follow the hearse and the limousine. However, since we're not in a procession, I must remind you to obey all traffic laws, just like we would. We'll ask you to remain in your places as we escort the family and the casket to their cars. And if you happen to run into the family, use the restroom or grab an item out of the chapel, please allow them to do what they need to do so we can get them back into their car and on their way to the cemetery. At this time, if I can invite the pallbearers forward.
Shiva Tzion, Ainu Kefoni, Azimale Tzchopi,
First in or last in, last out.